Hey everyone, and welcome to my first book review. I'm really excited because I've never done one before, so I'm gonna see how I like it. As you can see by the title, I am reviewing It Starts With Us. This is a reading vlog slash review, so after this intro, I will show the vlog of me reading it, and then after that, I'm gonna have a spoil-free review. The vlog also has no spoilers, so you don't have to worry about that, but at the very end, and I'll let you know when I'm gonna start talking about like my review with spoilers, so the people who read it can know my in-depth thoughts. So that's enough about the intro. I will be back when we talk about the review, so enjoy the video. Hey guys, so hopefully I made an intro because I currently look like this, but it's because it's like 9:45 p.m. and I'm reading It Starts With Us, which is great because I finished It Ends With Us like a couple weeks ago, and I knew the book was coming out, but I didn't know when, and I just happened to be at the store, so I picked it up. But I started reading it like, I want to say like at 7-ish, and now I'm on page 115, chapter 13, and I feel like I'm gonna finish this really soon. But so far so good. I don't know how I'm gonna really structure this video, but I kind of just want to say my thoughts every so often and then kind of sum up everything at the end. But so far I think I like this book better than the first one. I really did enjoy the first one, but I feel like just because there are so many questions that I didn't have answered is starting to get answered in this book. I'm like, heck yeah, I really like that. Also, like, I was not a fan of Ryle from not the beginning, but pretty early on, and I was team Alice all the way. So the fact that we're getting to see Alice's point of view and get to know more about his past is like amazing. So I'm really liking this so far. One thing that I really liked about It Ends With Us is how I really got an insight on like domestic abuse and how like sometimes it's not as easy as to just say like, well, why don't you just leave? And so it's really nice that it continues on in this book. It's not as heavy as the first book, but she's still navigating her life post-divorce, and you know, sometimes there's like gaslighting and not being so certain in your decision, and it's just so much emotions, and like it's hard. So seeing like how she's navigating being a mother and co-parenting and dating, it's really nice, and I'm enjoying this a lot. So I will update you once I get a little bit further. Okay, so it's 10:30 and I'm on chapter 16 now, and a twist just happened, and chapter, I guess 15 that I just read was so like, I don't know, it was very like sweet and made me, I don't know, it just made me like Atlas even more. So I'm gonna keep reading. I just kind of wanted to pop in here and say that because I was a stan for him from day one, and he just continues to prove why, and I just love this man. So I'm gonna keep reading. Probably not gonna update till tomorrow because I don't want to keep having to come on camera with this blanket wrapped around me. But yeah, that's the update so far. Okay, it's the next day obviously, and I went to bed at like 11:30ish, and I started reading at 7. So as soon as I woke up at like 8:30, I started reading, and I think I finished around like also 11:30 a.m. So your girl is done, and I don't know if I did the whole like reading vlog thing correctly. I think I've only watched one in my entire life, but either way, I really enjoyed this book. I didn't even eat breakfast until I was done reading this book, and there was this one scene, dude, that I was just crying at, and it wasn't even, I mean, I guess it is sad, but I wasn't crying because it was sad. I was crying because it's so optimistic and so beautiful, and I was just like, and what's funny is how, like, you know how the first book is called It Ends With Us, and then this one is It Starts With Us. So you kind of feel like you know why it's called that. Just, I mean, at least personally for me, I was like, oh, I feel like I know why, because she closed one chapter and she's about to begin another. But that's not the reason. And I love it when stories can just like lead you into thinking one way, even though I don't know if this was necessarily her intention, but for me, I always assume things and try to guess what's gonna happen, and I love it when I'm wrong. because I hate predictable books. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so beautiful. I'm not gonna be able to like have a sit down and talk about my whole review until tomorrow, which is good because I feel like I still have things that I should probably sit with and think about to give you my full honest review. But at this very moment, when it's still like fresh in my mind, even though tomorrow it's still gonna be fresh in my mind, but even fresher, is I feel complete. I like how questions have been answered. I feel like It Ends With Us was really still a really good book, but there's something about this one that I just really enjoy it a lot more. And maybe just because this one was just feels more complete to me, because it's so much more than just like the love between two people. Okay, here's the thing. I think this is where I'm trying to articulate. I feel like with It Ends With Us, like I cared a lot about her love life, and in this one I did care a lot about her love life, but I felt like I cared more about the other things that were going on besides her love life. I felt like I cared a lot more about like what's gonna happen with co-parenting between her and Ryle, and I felt more anxious to know about what's gonna happen with Atlas and his situation. So yeah, it's very hard to talk about because in this portion I don't want to have any spoilers, but when I put the spoiler section, guys, we're gonna go in because I have a lot of thoughts. Anyways, I have to go somewhere. We can talk about this more in depth tomorrow. I'm gonna try to get my thoughts out correctly, but yeah, so far so good. Oh, so far so good. Okay, so as you can see, I read everything. I let things process a little bit, and so now we can talk about It Starts With Us without spoilers. I already mentioned this during the vlog, but I think I do like this book better than the first one. I think I felt like this was more of a love story. Honestly, It Ends With Us isn't a love story in my opinion. I was never really a fan of Ryle, so every sweet thing and interaction between Lily and Ryle and It Ends With Us, yeah, it was cute, but I was never rooting for them. So the only time I felt like it was a love story was when we were going back reading the letters to Ellen. The bigger message was beyond a love story in the first book. In this book, there is definitely still the same message, but I felt like this was a love story, which I really enjoyed reading. The thing is though, I felt like I didn't really care about the love of Atlas and Lily, which might sound kind of like, I don't know. Like I felt like I already knew how it was gonna end. So I didn't really care very much for their relationship, which might be kind of bad, but like I still really enjoyed it because I cared a lot more about the things that were going on with Lily and co-parenting and all that, and I cared more about like what was happening with Atlas. So like even though I feel like this was more of a love story, it's funny how I didn't care as much for the love story as I did with the side plots, I guess. I liked learning about the new characters, and I liked learning more about Atlas's life. So in this story, you will definitely get more insight to Atlas and his life and be able to see how they even got to where they met. I love it when books make me feel things. I love it when I cry. I love it when I feel offended. I love it when I feel happy when things happen, because then I feel like I'm really getting into the book. The big thing that I like about reading is how I feel like I'm in another world. And there are some books where like I'm like, this is a stupid world, but this book makes me feel like I'm like actively a part of what's going on, which I really like. You do get a lot of letters and notes being exchanged in this book, similar to the last one. I don't know if it's as much, but I really like the letters that are shared in this story, just because like as a kid, like I liked writing notes mostly to my mom. Like if I felt something, I would just write her a note, happy or sad, it doesn't matter, I would write it. So it like hit home for me a little bit, and I really appreciated it. And I feel like the writing is very different. Well, of course it's different because it's writing a letter, but like it feels way more personal, and I can't think of a better way to express feelings than through letters. So it really is nice to like get a little bit closer to the characters when they read the letters. The ending felt very rushed to me. It felt like it could have taken more pages or chapters. Just, I won't go into detail because I feel like I might spoil it, but like I felt like it was rushed and that we could have taken a little bit more time just to really like enjoy it and everything. I realized as my first book review, it's very hard to not spoil while saying a book review, so I'm sorry if this is very vague, but please come back to the next portion once you read the book, so I can just spill my beans because I have more specific details I would like to share. But overall, I do like this book. I think it's better than the first one. I think it's worth the read, but of course you need to read the first one if you want to get to the second one. I do not want to say that this is the best book in the world. I do not think it's the best book in the world. Honestly, a lot of the books that I'm reading, which I'm going to make a video about, that are like overhyped on Book Talk and Instagram and the whole book community, I feel like are way too overhyped, and like my expectations are very high in reading it. So when it doesn't happen, then I feel like it alters my rating. So yeah. And like I like how you realize why it's named what it's named, why the cover is the way it looks. I like little attention to detail and things like that, which is just a side note. But I definitely recommend the book if you would like to read. And like also just the fact that like it ends with us and it starts with us teaches like a good lesson, that especially with like domestic abuse that I was not aware of. It definitely makes it worth reading, even if the love story isn't exactly what you want, even if you feel like it's overhyped. I feel like it's still good to read. I usually like reading just romance books, and like if it has another message, then great. But the fact that I feel like the domestic abuse message is bigger than the romance is great. And I don't feel like I ever had a book that I've read that taught me as much, I guess. We don't expect it to be the best book in the world. Book Talk is trying to deceive you, or at least just trying to like overhype things, which I feel like just ruin things. So I just feel like saying it's a good book is good enough. Now I'm going to get into the spoiler review. So if you don't want to listen to spoilers, then click out right now. But first thing, Ryle needs jail time. I'm sorry, this is something that just really was like irking me a lot. And like at the end of the story, she says like you need anger management and supervised visits, which of course he does not need to be alone with children. But like I felt like he was given way too many second chances. I felt like he deserves jail time, he deserves therapy and anger management. He needs like a lot more, and like he's like seriously messed up. And like I felt uneasy that he's just like off the hook and living life without consequences, like legal consequences to his actions. And I understand why at the time Lily didn't go forward with reporting and whatever else, but like it just hurts, and like it sucks that like in real life people like this get away with so many things similar and they're just free. Sometimes the consequences aren't that big, and like in his case it's just seeing her live, like move on with another guy and have his daughter have a stepfather. And so yeah, I think this man needs jail time. With the reason why the book is, it starts with us, dude, when like what's his name, when Josh was saying what he said about the school project and like the family tree thing, girl, that had me in tears. I mean, I guess it was just how I wasn't expecting it. Like I thought because it ends with us, it ended a chapter, and I should have known better maybe, because like it ends with us wasn't even about her ending the relationship with Ryle. It was the end of the cycle of domestic abuse. And so if it starts with us, I don't know why I thought it was just gonna be like her and Atlas living happily ever after, and that's why the story was gonna be named that. But I thought it was really beautiful. I loved seeing the hope and optimism between Josh and Atlas, just being like F you to our fathers and our mother, and like just move on and start the family tree with us. I thought that was so cute and beautiful, and that's why I cried. The reason I didn't like, or not that I didn't like, but the reason I didn't really care so much for the relationship between Atlas and Lily is because I already knew they were going to end up together. And I feel like we all knew they were going to end up together. So just the fact that we knew made me not feel so concerned. Like I already know that we were talking about how Ryle was going to heal and whatever, but like I still knew they were going to end up together. So I was just really more worried about like how will they move forward co-parenting, and how will Atlas get custody of his brother. So those were the things I was just more concerned about. I didn't really care a lot about the love story, even though like I thought it was still very beautiful. I felt like I cared more about Atlas and Lily getting together in the first book because there was so much uncertainty with that. But then once the second book happened, I was like, okay, they're gonna end up together. I already know they're gonna end up together. In the beginning, I think it was in the intro or something, she mentions how like Atlas and Lily deserve a sequel, and the audience deserves to see them live happily ever after. And it just feels weird that like the moving in together and then them getting married happened so quickly when it was supposed to be like something that we deserve to see, like them live happily ever after. And I felt like those were big pivotal moments, and it would have been so great like to not drag it on, but like let us savor the moment, savor the good things. Like I felt like most of this book was just like stress, and then we get like such a small point. I don't even know if this is the exact page. Okay, so this is actually all the things of like are they gonna end up together, how are they gonna end up together and stuff. And then we get this little tiny section where it's like them actually moving in together, getting married, and I'm just like, we deserve this, not this. I mean, even though all this was really good, I wish this was still pretty lengthy. Like I want to see more of them happily ever after. I don't want to have to use my imagination and then just assume the rest, because I read like, oh, we deserve it, they deserve it. I was thinking like, okay, we're gonna get like happiness and like a bigger chunk of happiness. Not saying that the rest was garbage, but I just wish the happier moments were just a little bit more thick. I really like that I felt manipulated by Ryle. Some of the things he said were like not complete crazy, and like I don't even know how to describe it. Maybe I'll have to find a quote. But I really liked how at some points I was like, not thinking like she shouldn't have divorced him, but I was like, oh wow, like not that that's a good point, but just like I felt bad for him, and not that it's enough for him to get everything he wants, but it was just a means of manipulation, or maybe just who he is, because he had a really traumatic experience as a child. So this is, I guess, a bit mix of like it ends with us and it starts with us. I like how he wasn't just some evil guy just trying to mess things up all the time purposefully. He was just really messed up and messed things up because he's just a really messed up person. And that's not an excuse. You still have to like deal with the consequences of your actions, which I felt like, and I already mentioned, I wish there was more consequences for his actions. But I liked how there was more dimension to them, and it was like a complicated situation. And I liked how stuff like that is what highlights why it's so hard for people to leave. And like, oh my god, in the last book I really loved how Lily's mom, I can't remember verbatim what she said, but it was something about how your threshold gets pushed down every time someone hurts you, because if he does something, it's like, well, at least he didn't do this. Let me find it. Okay, I found the quote. So it wasn't threshold, but it was, every incident chips away at your limit. Every time you choose to stay, it makes the end time that much harder to leave. Eventually you lose sight of your limit altogether, because you start to think, I've lasted 5 years, what's 5 more years? And like, I love that quote so much from the last book. And like, I like how it highlights things where like so much psychological chaos going on through someone's mind, that it's like, it's so much easier to project like, oh, you should just leave because it's just easy like that, when it's hard. And like I already knew that it was easier said than done, but I felt like I learned a lot in that book, and even this book, just how much. Shoot, now I'm thinking like, do I even like this book even more, because I forgot about that quote. That quote was really good. Anyways, yeah, I think I said everything I had to say. I'm going to make another book video coming soon, so look out for that. But I don't want to talk like even more than I already did talking about this book. If you are thinking about getting it, get it. I think that's it. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.